Have you ever realized that some albums resonate with you on a deeper level? They don't merely sound good, they reach into your heart and stir emotions you didn't even know you had. This is precisely what Ferg, formerly ASAP Ferg, experienced when he heard Kendrick Lamar's Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. The experience transformed his perspective on himself, his music, and the true nature of vulnerability in a world that expects you to always be tough. Welcome to Celebrity Rap Life, where the red carpets never roll up and the spotlight never fades. The rewards are legendary, because in Celebrity Rap Life, every downfall can become a comeback, and every headline tells a deeper story. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a second of what's coming next. Picture this for a second. You're Ferg, right? You've been running with one of the most influential rap collectives of the last decade. You've built your name on high-energy bangers that make crowds lose their minds. And your whole identity is wrapped up in this image of being untouchable, being that dude who brings the energy everywhere he goes. Then, one day, you sit down with an album that's basically Kendrick Lamar ripping his own chest open and showing the world everything that's bleeding inside. And suddenly, you're looking at yourself in a mirror you didn't know existed. That's the kind of moment that doesn't just pass by. That's the kind of moment that rewires your whole operating system. Ferg spoke on this experience with the kind of honesty that catches you off guard, because in hip-hop, we're taught from day one that opening up is weakness, that showing your scars makes you a target, that real ones keep it bottled up and let it out through the music in coded ways that only those who know really know. But Kendrick flipped that whole script with Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, and Ferg was paying attention in ways he hadn't paid attention to music in a long time. This wasn't just another album drop. This was therapy session music. This was confronting your demons in broad daylight music. This was admitting you're hurt and confused and still figuring it out music. And for someone like Ferg, who had spent years crafting this larger-than-life persona, it hit like a freight train he never saw coming. What Kendrick did on that album was dangerous in the best possible way. He talked about generational trauma like it was a monster living in his bloodline. He dissected his relationship with his partner in ways that made people uncomfortable because it was too real, too raw, too much like looking into someone's private journal. He questioned everything from his role as a father to his responsibility as a voice for millions of people who look to him for answers when he's still looking for answers himself. And Ferg watched all of this unfold through his speakers and realized something profound. If Kendrick Lamar, one of the greatest to ever do it, could stand in front of the world and say, "I'm broken, I'm healing, I'm trying to figure this out," then maybe there was space for Ferg to do the same thing in his own way. The timing of this revelation couldn't have been more perfect or more painful. Ferg was going through his own transformation, not just musically, but personally. The whole situation with the ASAP mob and the way things went down with his name, that wasn't just business drama or industry politics. That cut deep. That was family. That was brothers he came up with, shared stages with, built an empire with. And when that foundation started cracking, it shook more than just his career. It shook his sense of identity, his understanding of loyalty, his belief in the codes and rules that had governed his life since he first stepped into the rap game. He was carrying weight that most people couldn't see because he was still performing, still showing up, still being Ferg on the outside, while on the inside, everything was shifting like tectonic plates right before an earthquake. And then here comes Kendrick with this album that basically gave him permission to stop pretending everything was solid when it wasn't. What Ferg started to understand was that vulnerability wasn't the opposite of strength, it was actually a different kind of strength altogether, maybe even a harder one to access because it requires you to go against every survival instinct that got you through the streets, through the industry, through all the situations where showing weakness could get you hurt or played or dismissed. Kendrick showed him that you could be complex, you could be contradictory, you could be struggling and still be powerful, still be respected, still be someone whose voice mattered in the culture. The specific way Kendrick structured Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers also spoke to Ferg because it wasn't just confessional for the sake of being confessional. There was intention behind every revelation. There was purpose in the pain. Kendrick wasn't just dumping his trauma onto tracks and calling it art. He was processing it in real time, taking listeners through his journey of understanding himself better, of breaking cycles that had been running through his family for generations, of trying to be better than the examples he had, while also acknowledging that he was still flawed, still capable of causing harm even while trying to heal. That nuanced approach to storytelling, that willingness to sit in the gray areas instead of always choosing a side, that resonated with where Ferg was in his own life. Because here's the thing about growth that nobody really talks about. It's messy as hell. It's not a straight line from point A to point B, where you learn a lesson and suddenly you're enlightened and everything clicks into place. Growth is backsliding and second-guessing yourself, and feeling like you're making progress one day, and then waking up the next day right back where you started. Kendrick captured that messiness in a way that felt honest, and Ferg recognized himself in that honesty. He recognized the parts of himself that were evolving and the parts that were still holding on to old patterns because they felt safe, even when they weren't serving him anymore. What started happening in Ferg's creative process after absorbing Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers was this gradual shift toward more introspective content. He started writing verses that dug deeper into his actual feelings instead of just crafting clever punchlines and hard-hitting hooks. He started thinking about his music as a vehicle for processing his experiences, rather than just entertainment or flex records. That doesn't mean he abandoned what made him successful in the first place. Ferg still knows how to make a banger. He still understands the importance of energy and vibe and making music that moves people physically. But now there was this additional layer, this emotional depth that came from being willing to explore the uncomfortable stuff, the questions without easy answers, the feelings that don't fit neatly into Instagram captions or interview soundbites. The whole experience also made Ferg think differently about legacy and what he wanted to leave behind. It's easy to get caught up in the numbers game, the streaming counts and the chart positions and the features and all the external markers of success that the industry uses to measure worth. But albums like Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers remind you that the music that really lasts, the music that changes lives and shifts culture, is the music that comes from a place of truth. Kendrick wasn't chasing trends on that album. He was chasing understanding, chasing healing, chasing the ability to look at himself clearly and share what he saw without filters or fear. That's the kind of artistry that transcends moment and becomes timeless, and Ferg wanted to tap into that same energy in his own work. What makes this whole story even more compelling is the context of where hip-hop is right now as a culture. There's been this ongoing conversation about mental health in the Black community, about the toll that fame and success takes on artists who never had the tools to process it properly, about the importance of therapy and emotional honesty in spaces that traditionally rewarded the opposite. Kendrick addressing these themes so directly gave other artists permission to do the same, created a blueprint for how to talk about these things without losing your credibility or your edge. Ferg joining that conversation in his own way, speaking about how one album inspired him to open up more, contributes to this larger shift that's happening, where we're starting to value emotional intelligence and self-awareness as much as we value bars and beats. The ripple effect of this inspiration continues to play out in Ferg's music and his approach to his career. He's making choices now that prioritize authenticity over algorithm, that value meaningful expression over viral moments. He's collaborating with artists who push him creatively, rather than just artists who make commercial sense. He's writing from a place of genuine emotion, rather than just trying to craft the perfect quotable line for social media. All of this traces back to that moment when he let Kendrick's vulnerability inspire his own, when he decided that being real was worth more than maintaining an image that no longer fit who he was becoming. And honestly, that's the kind of transformation that the culture needs more of. Artists brave enough to evolve in public, to admit that they're still learning, still growing, still discovering new layers of themselves through the music they make and the music they consume. That's what Kendrick gave Ferg with Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, and what Ferg is now paying forward through his own willingness to be more open, more honest, more human in his art. This story is far from over, and the truth is still unfolding. I want to hear what you think. Drop your take in the comments. And if you don't want to miss the next twist, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a second of what's coming next.